Happy Saturday morning when I'm filming this, everybody. Hello, welcome in. Thanks to recent conversations that went on during the Sweet Treat Street Crawl, Pub Crawl, whatever you want to call it, marathon that went on the last weekend in March, I was inspired to go ahead and make another tag. It's been a while since I've actually made one, and I figured I was asked to participate in one, and that normally cues me to give back to the community by making my own. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Muse tag, Authortube and Booktube edition, because I'm sure all of us have that influences on both what we create and what we consume. See you on the other side. Welcome on back, everybody. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, and I am so glad and honored to have you here. Let's go ahead and check out the Saturday Morning Muse tag. If you want to go ahead and check out all 9 questions, they are in the description box below, along with the long list of people that I'm tagging to join in. The crew who hosted the Sweet Treat Crawl are the people who I'm going to tag because you're the ones who inspired a lot of the questions. I tend to take and create things from writing chats as inspiration for a lot of stuff around this channel, such as Soul Care Sundays. Why not this too? So, appropriately so, question number 1. Which Saturday morning cartoons were some of the earliest ones that you watched as a child? I'm going to keep this strictly not Japanese anime because that's a whole different thing. And I already did a bunch of videos on that January 2024. Go check that playlist. Probably description box below is where you can find it, about how anime impacted my writing. So I'll stick really, truly, as much for all these answers to not anime questions, to be fair. So some of the first ones I remember seeing are going to be The Amazing Spider-Man and His Friends, X-Men. Also, we're going to put in Garfield and Friends in there. For sure. Like, I remember these being on not just Saturday mornings, but a couple of days a week. They would also be on before school as replays, so I would catch them then too. Question number 2. Did your rotation of cartoons change at all while growing up? And if so, what do they morph into loves of? Definitely anime applies here, but I leaned hard into the Marvel route. So I've watched most of the Marvel franchise cartoons from the 90s and early 2000s. So of course I am a huge fan still of original X-Men. Also like the noir style Batman. Also, by the way, Clive, our very favorite Alfred, rest in peace. He recently passed, unfortunately. So definitely got to give my props to noir style Batman from the early 90s. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my own shirt. Some of you are like, why isn't she talking about the 4 dudes on her shirt? I'm a very original, like late 80s, early 90s Turtles, the, ones I'm wearing kind of fan. Did not like most of the remakes for that. However, as far as X-Men remakes go, I was a huge fan of X-Men Evolution. That's going to be the version where you have a lot of voices from watching early 2000s, late 90s anime ended up being the voices in there. So that's going to be the one where Wolverine is voiced by Scott McNeil, who's Duo Maxwell from Gundam Wing, and Koga from Inuyasha. You've also got the voice of my favorite Kurt Wagner is voiced by one Katra Rababa Winner, and the voice of, Light. So, from Death Note. So, yeah, I very, very, very much love X-Men Evolution. Not so much for its story arcing, because you can see where a lot of the movies took signals or didn't take signals from that arc. But I loved it more so because of the voices who were in it, because I knew those voices from other things. The only version of Cyclops I actually had a crush on because he was voiced by Kirby Morrow, rest in peace, Troy Barton. Question number 3. Which one of the characters or shows most directly impacts the types of books you like to read or write? I normally do cite anime here a lot of the times for the influences to my books, but here, more often than not, I am realizing that a lot of the tropes in X-Men Evolution and also in, like, the Thundercats and those kind of era shows are showing up in my season 2 books. Very, very, very much so. And I find myself wanting to go back and rewatch those all the more now that I think about it. So question number 4, which Saturday morning cartoons do you spend the most merch on as an adult? Let me see, hold on. I have a ton of Funko Pops. That's going to be our answer. So far, this shouldn't surprise me. X-Men. Because I have a couple of Gambit ones, and I have a Rogue. But yeah, of like my non-anime Funkos, it's definitely going to be that franchise. I also have a complete set of remake action figures when they did a second generation run of the original TMNT toys. I have those packed away. They were in my display box, camera, whatever, a year and a half ago when we lived in the little apartment that I miss. I have some Care Bear merch, but to be fair, it's crossed over with Hello Kitty. So there's that. Yeah, a lot of Marvel stuff, I would venture to say, is where that merch falls into. I will grab any t-shirt that fits me. Some of you are probably wondering, does she wear guy shirts or girl shirts? I don't care, they fit. This one I think came, this TMN t-shirt, probably like where most of my really good t-shirts came from, that aren't like obviously from T-Turtle because of that style of art. If it's more like original licensing kind, it's probably I got it from the men's t-shirt section in Walmart. I kid you not. That's where most of these are where I get them from, and they cost somewhere between $5 and $10 is normally when I buy them. So yeah, I'm gonna wear them for a couple of years, and because it falls into that fast fashion quality, I'm gonna wear them out. And I'm doing that on purpose because filming, and also when I was teaching, I would wear these on Fridays. So that's kind of where that rotation and why I buy those, because I'm gonna want to circle through them quite often. Number 5, on the Saturday morning cartoon, of the Saturday morning cartoon felines, which ones are your faves? I already mentioned Garfield. Definitely Garfield. Heathcliff would be a close second. A lot of you probably don't remember Heathcliff, no one should terrorize the neighborhood. I loved that show. It was like Garfield, but gangster street version. And I grew up in the hood, so I was like, yeah, I can get where I, liked both as a kid. As far as other cartoon felines go, see, my likeness here would usually be to mention one, Luna, from a certain anime. I've already mentioned anime multiple times and said I wouldn't, but that's the only other one that's coming to mind, strangely enough. Now, the Saturday morning canines for question number 6, which ones are my faves? I love the Goof Troop series. Oh my god. Like, to this day, if I see an episode of Goof Troop on, I'm probably no longer connected to this world for a good 5 minutes to half an hour, depending on which episode it is and how long it's been since I've seen parts of it. By that extension, I'm also going to add in Animaniacs here. I consider them more dog-like than cat-like. You all do or do not know the lore, and you're welcome to debate accordingly. And I was going to mention Cat Dog here, because Cat Dog can fall in whichever category of the two, take your pick. I guess I could also throw some Courage the Cowardly Dog in here. Why is it the dogs have all the good shows? I now realize that there are markedly more dog cartoon characters that have come in my life, more so than cat cartoon characters, I realize. 7, are there any highly underrated Saturday morning cartoons people should watch? I normally say Heathcliff to this question, so if you haven't seen that one, go check it out. I would also say there's a show called Mask that a lot of people, either you heard about it or you have no clue about it. And it's about these group of people who, they are everyday people, but when they put on this mask, they work with like these transforming kind of vehicles that are really cool, and they go do battle. It wasn't a long running series, but I remember owning a good chunk of it on VHS and watching it from my brothers as a kid. Not Transformers, but there's also Transor Z, if you remember that one. Samurai Pizza Cats is a show. And everyone's like, that's not a show. Yes, it's a show. If you don't believe me, check it out. It's actually not bad. Street Sharks is another one that's also very, very vaguely coming to mind in that vein of thought as well. So question number 8. Which cartoons did you watch as a child but you would not show to children today? Probably half of the ones I watched as a kid. But that's mostly because, to be fair, I have brothers who are upwards of 2 decades older than I am. They were watching more violent cartoons with me sitting in their lap as kids. Just as they were also playing video games of the same ilk with me sitting in their lap. I was their guinea pig baby, and I know it. And so do their children, because one of my brothers has a kid who's 4 years younger than me. So, yeah, I definitely know I was the guinea pig baby in that regard, and it kind of shows in my tastes. I would venture to say that edutainment, educational entertainment kind of cartoons have appropriately taken hold of the age categories they should. Now, mind you, that is partially because the Entertainment Standards Rating Board, ESRB, now exists. When it didn't, back when some of the more violent cartoons I grew up with were originally made. A lot of those would be rated what's called Y7. Youth age 7 and older are okay without asking mom and dad, am I old enough and mature enough to handle this? Normally in your under that age category, you're looking at things like VeggieTales, Sesame Street. Nothing wrong with those shows. Fraggle Rock, definitely not anything wrong with those shows. They have their place, but I think those shows got the attention more so longer for the littles up to that age 7 but barrier for Y7 once the ESRB came in. Because I remember being 3-4 years old watching Power Rangers and my parents being totally okay with it because at night my brothers and I were watching The Simpsons together. Yes, my brothers would, as child-friendly as possible, explain any questions I had. That was the rule. If she asks any questions, you all have to be okay with answering them. Not mom and dad. You open that door, insert your mouth to your foot, connect the two, deal with it. So my mom and dad knew. She's their guinea pig baby. Let them figure it out. So did my nephews, my 3 eldest nephews, get to watch those shows at young of an age as I did? No. Once the ESRB came out, their dad actually told their mom, yeah, you really should let them enjoy the VeggieTales and the Barney and the whatnot a little bit longer. We kind of ruined Jenna's childhood. They didn't call me that. They called me my real full name. To them, it's Jen. We ruined Jen's childhood early with a lot of gore and violence that she probably should not have been watching at 3, 4, 5 years old. Yes. My nightmares were warranted, we'll put it that way. And my mom and dad's response was, you did it. You go calm her down. And they would wake them up and make them deal with it. So, I believe we are on the last question. Out of the theme songs, which ones live in your head rent-free on most days? Da-da-da-dun-dun. Da-da-da-da-dun-dun. It has no words. It's just the X-Men theme song, the guitar solo riff. I have been known to walk around the house just da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, wow, wow. And just everyone knows, if you're my generation, one up or one down. Almost everyone knows what that song is when they hear it. Oh, it's the guitar riff from the X-Men theme. The other one that randomly, of course, not the Animaniacs theme song, but Yakko's Countries of the World. And apparently, there's an extension to it. If you have not heard his voice actor do the updated version, there's a podcast here on YouTube where the voice of Winnie the Pooh gets together with voice actors from Disney, Nickelodeon, Fox, all these different things that we grew up with, anime and not, and has them over to hang out. And there's one where it's the voice of Winnie the Pooh, the voice of Goofy, the voice of Yakko, and there's one other in the room, I think. There's 3 or 4 gentlemen in the room, and they're all voices we know from everything. And they're talking about it, and the voice of Yakko riffs into the new version, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's even longer now? So definitely all those random little songs from Animaniacs that weirdly helped me pass really, really big exams in high school paid off. I did that. Also, the President's song, that saved me for advanced placement US history for the actual test. That song is why I did so well on the test and actually didn't have to take a full set of 3 history credits in college. So thank you, Animaniacs, for saving some of us nerds on history tests even. And with that being what it is, if you made it this far, put a purple heart down in the comments and feel welcome to answer any of the other questions and be Lady Nerd or Lord Geek accordingly. Take care of everybody. I'll see you back here with streaming in a couple of days even. You've mattered, you always have, and so did your voice. Rough Jeff Challenge, let's go!